We're going to be reviewing Donald Trump's Afghan strategy. He thinks it's new. Maybe in his head it is. Also his approach to Pakistan. And we're going to be looking at the best political ad ever made. All that before we get to the pyramid and Sam Sachs. My friend Sam Sachs is in studio with us, along with really a whole crew of people, including my best Republican friend. But that story is for another day, when I allow evil to enter the airwaves and he becomes the resident Republican contributor to the Michael Brooks Show. It's called the T's in the business. And
you're going to platform a Republican?
I am going to platform a Republican because unfortunately I'm amusement first in my platforming decisions. And an ad that we got our hands on with Right Wing Mandela for Trump's wineries. That is all in the first half. And then we get to the post game. We need to talk about Trump's approach to Afghanistan and Pakistan. I think no doubt the generals sat him down in a meeting and basically convinced him that failed bipartisan policies of the last 16 years were somehow actually his idea because he was in the room supposedly making it. We have a couple of different clips, and I'm going to run through the sort of essential aspects of this that we need to keep track of. And first, we have Trump explaining why he's not going to really release any details on troop deployment levels or anything else because, you know, there's the classic element of surprise, which he's really into, just like when he stared directly at the eclipse.
Conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, will guide our strategy from now on. America's enemies must never know our plans or believe they can wait us out. I will not say when we are going to attack, but attack we will.
So, look, President Bush said that this was not about timetables, it was about results, essentially. John McCain had an op-ed several years ago saying it's not about artificial timetables, it's about achievable benchmarks. President Obama, when he surged in Afghanistan in a strategy that basically was to sort of slow motion pummel the Taliban into agreeing to negotiate, was essentially following the same strategy. It's all nonsense. It's actually quite conventional foreign policy that, again, has consistently failed with the patina of Trump belligerent incompetence. And speaking of belligerent incompetence actually having a real human toll, let's get to one of the more disturbing aspects of what he's hinting at here in light of the global conduct of the Trump administration since he's taken office.
Finally, my administration will ensure that you, the brave defenders of the American people, will have the necessary tools and rules of engagement to make this strategy work and work effectively and work quickly. I have already lifted restrictions the previous administration placed on our warfighters that prevented the Secretary of Defense and our commanders in the field from fully and swiftly waging battle against the enemy. Micromanagement from Washington, D.C. does not win battles.
So, out of the gate, this fucking moron ordered an assault on Yemen that killed dozens of children in a complete failure of every type of planning and human rights norm imaginable. He dropped the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan. And according to Air Wars, which documents these things, there has been a significant increase in civilian casualties in his conduct in the war on ISIS since he has taken office. That's what he means by taking the gloves off and not sort of having traditional metrics of accountability when we do these things. He's talking about, and the direct result will be more civilian casualties. Two other quick points. Number one, he talked a good game about Pakistan. He never threatened to cut military aid to them. Until you do that, not much you can do. And also, when the next Pakistani foreign minister calls him a great leader, we'll be back to square one with the Pakistanis, no doubt. Number two, and we'll get to this with Anoa, it's time to retire this nonsense that Donald Trump is at war with some deep state. There might be some people inside intelligence apparatuses who are genuinely concerned about the fact that we have a deeply, deeply mentally disturbed narcissist running the country. But in terms of actual policy, he's going to give them the store every single time because they're guys with shiny uniforms and they impress him, and he's a moron. And that's what we have to keep in mind as we continue for yet more failure in Afghanistan to prop up one side of what is essentially now almost essentially a heroin trafficking war, which we'll talk about more later. Now, we need to get to, I got eyes from the Republican on that one. We need to get to the most effective political ad that I have seen in quite some time, and it also caused some hurt fifis in the United Kingdom. This is a ad that was put together by Momentum, which is a pressure group aligned with the left of the Labour Party, and Jeremy Corbyn. And it's a UK ad, obviously, but this ad, and unfortunately for people listening, this is a visual product, but we can kind of go over it somewhat slowly and explain what's happening. But play this ad. I think this ad sort of captures the essence of the current political moment.
I just don't get why Jeremy Corbyn is so popular.
Because he promises everything, and gullible people just fall for it.
Exactly. Young people think, oh great, I don't have to pay for university, thinking there's some kind of magic money tree to pay for it.
Pause it. And this guy, now the graphics start showing up. These are all middle-aged people. They're wealthy. They're at a dinner party. And this guy who just said, people don't think they need to pay for university. It points out that this guy didn't pay anything for university because, in fact, when he attended, it was, in fact, free. And this is how the theme starts.
And they moan about how hard it is to get on the housing ladder. You just have to work hard and save up.
And she bought her first
People
home for
think they just
$20,000.
deserve a job without doing the necessary work to get it. Nobody ever helped me out.
They just don't get it, do they? No.
So just really quick down the list, the woman who said you just have to save up to get your own home, she bought her first home for £20 million. It's now worth over $1 million. The guy who said no one ever handed me a job, his dad gave him his job at the media agency that he works at. And then the person next to him who says, yeah, you got to like work hard, founded the media agency who gave his son the job. So it's a great ad, and it does play off of kind of like Tory toff stereotypes in the UK. And that led, and did we have this on screen, Matt, or no? But one Tory MP named James Cleverly responded, a masterclass in motivating people using resentment of bourgeoisie caricatures. Lenin would be proud. And I just would like to say Lenin would be proud. Left is best. And I wonder where we're going to send this guy to a re-education camp. I would vote Vermont. They could send us over here when Bernie's in office, and we'll do some sort of like global trade on re-education camps for people like James Cleverly. But that ad captures the dynamic perfectly. Younger people have experienced neoliberalism in its undiluted form most clearly. That's why they have shifted significantly to actual robust left politics. And the cliches and the bullshit and the nonsense that you hear from the commentariat to argue against universal programs are all on display in that ad. And I don't think that some of the things that those British idiots said in the Momentum ad are all that dissimilar from something you might hear coming out of Joy Reid's mouth. Sad to say. That was for Sam Sachs, who was in studio. He recognizes it. He appreciates it. Don't worry. I'm sure you'll figure out a way to diss her when you're on mic, Sam. This is, after all, well, no, I was going to make a white nationalism joke, but I'll spare Sam from that. What we're going to do now is we're going to take care of a little bit of business, and then we are going to get Noa Changa on the phone. But first, I have a theory that if we put a mid-90s rap beat underneath my begging you all to become patrons, it will make it more palatable. But first of all, I want to thank the first 563 people that have joined. It's a really, really strong start out of the gate. We've only been going for 2 weeks. We have 2 idea primers released. The intro to the third way, there it is, affirmative action by the firm. The third way introduction to the third way, and then this past week we did one on Erdogan's social media strategy and the use of Twitter and social media by the new neo-authoritarian right. This Sunday, for members, for patrons, Corey Pine and I are doing a primer, an illicit history on Silicon Valley fascism. So what you need to do, and also you can come with me and chat on Discord, be on the postgame. Sam Sachs is hanging out with me for the whole postgame, people. Come on, you know what you need to do. Go to patreon.com/TMBS, patreon.com/TMBS. Become a Brooksy for $8 a month. You get all of the premium show content, plus access to the Discord, special notes and writing on Patreon. And then, you can go up the ladder, become a comrade for $21 a month. You get a monthly call with me. I've got my first one scheduled for next week. Become show crew or a Brooks brother. That's all at patreon.com/TMBS. This is how this show is possible and how we, fight back from small studios again in Brooklyn against the dum-dum left, the pseudo-woke neoliberal morons, and of course the clown fascism that runs this whole country. So please consider joining, and there's also a lot of other treats in there for you as members. I just recorded a brand new interview with Steve Cook on the lobbying inside Washington around the Gulf crisis. That's going out just for members, and also impressions of people that I won't do publicly because it could jeopardize my career. Well, psych. No, I'm just saving it for you because you're members. I don't give a fuck about my career. Well, I care deeply about my career, but I don't give a fuck about hurting people's feelings that I impersonate. We will be right back with Noa Changa on The Michael Brooks Show. It's okay, man. It's fine.
Yes, wow. Still I see I give me the remedy, the fire figure burn. I said the tables turn. Give me the remedy, the fire figure blaze. Burn Babylon, dirty way. Special. Eternal fire. Dirty Babylon, you are gonna get bruised. Me, I want them fire. I said they just can't win, you're going to lose. We are want them. Ooh, yeah. Pack up and go. Me, I beg you move, yeah. I beg you pack up and go. Me said the movement alive. Marcus said we organize and centralize. Rasta fi own banks and enterprise. So me nah stop chanting, my soul enters Zion. Princes of fire, Babylon, me tell you your time just expire. What kind of wickedness me or you transpire? And no gasoline and a tire. Eternal fire, dirty Babylon, you walk or get bruised. Me I want them fire. I said they just can't win, you're going lose. So we I want them. I beg you pop up and go. And a compass on ya, make me show them say saltfish no come from on ya.
On a number of levels, and Twitter is kind of like still the main platform of this. I wonder if Twitter would be better if Twitter didn't exist. But can you explain, when you talk about the drama that you're involved in, how did it start in this kind of recent iteration? Because you pointed out this amazing thing. Let me just give one more minute of context. these morons around Hillary Clinton and the people that I would call like the pseudo woke center, they were out, saying that, like supporting single payer, that's like code word for like you want to resegregate water fountains. I mean, they went with the most ludicrous, ridiculous, or like when Hillary said, reining in Wall Street won't do anything about racial discrimination, which is like, first of all, wrong. And secondly, like, what, that's your new metric? Like, I'm not going to sign a new SALT treaty. What would that have to do with racial discrimination? Like, okay.
Right.
But now you have discovered a thread of people that are in the kind of wider conversation, relatively small, but inside this kind of YouTube world, sort of significant, who have actually started advocating for an alliance with the Nazis of our day to take on a deep state of which they're not even using the term correctly to describe. They're not talking about intelligence, military industrial complex. They're talking about Alex Jones stuff. So anyways, take it away, Anoa.
Yes, they're talking about child sex slaves on Mars. Yeah.
So is Matt. Matt's super into that. No, I'm just kidding.
So I will say this, and I'm sorry for folks who are going to get mad at me for playing identity politics, but like, I'm black. I'm black. I was raised by radical black parents. And like, so all this notion of being afraid of the deep state and taking down the deep state, like, that is a luxury that my black ass does not have to run around talking about, I'm going to, go take down the government. Because when black people of my dad, stepdad, mom's generation talked about that stuff, they ended up either locked away in jail or they're in, they're in hiding abroad. Charlotte's, sister Asada Shakur. So, like, there's a very deep history in this country about, and I'm being more serious now. There's a very deep history. Well, I mean that was serious too, but there's a very deep history in this country, right? About, we talk about the left and we talk about people, and it's not just a black thing. We have so many different groups that have engaged together in movements that have been counter to the predominant, American government, narratives and really American imperialism, right? So there really actually is a really deep, rich history. But a lot of these people who are these pseudo-woke, Bernie pulled the wool back from guys, and the Democrats are evil folks who are so disenfranchised. And I understand, like, I don't blame the average person who follows some of these, charismatic leaders, some of them are. I don't blame people for wanting to find something, because there really actually is a void. There's a void in good information. There's a void in leadership when you're thinking about like party identity. Because for a lot of people, I realized the party, like being a Democrat or voting, was really tied to some folks in their identity. There's a lot of us out here who just vote because we vote, and that's what we're supposed to do.
So when
and it's okay, Democrats suck.
So when well, we all know this, but when you talk about, I mean, that's kind of like disturbing how many people seem to know that. It's actually pretty bad brand challenge for Democrats. But let's talk specifically. There was a woman named Featherstone who wrote a column. Sorry, what was it? Sorry?
Johnstone.
Oh, excuse me.
Caitlin Johnstone.
Caitlin Johnstone, excuse me. She wrote a piece.
Called me violent because I asked for questions.
Well, that sounds violent. So she wrote a piece in a Medium a couple of weeks ago, and this is someone that honestly I'd never heard of before. And she basically said, what we need to do is, Mike Cernovich is doing really important work on the deep state. And the deep state is at war with Donald Trump. And we, those of us on the real left, we need to set aside differences about racism, differences about the environment, and we need to go to war against, not the deep state as would be defined in academic literature or even in a kind of policy debate, but like, the sex tourism on Mars variety. We need to align with them and go to war against the deep state. We need to align with the Mike Cernoviches of the world.
We need to join with InfoWars.
Right, we need to join with InfoWars. You called this out, and this is also on the tail end of a lot of other sort of like weird racial politics that is kind of popping up around like the quote-unquote
culture.
Right. So
Yeah.
talk about it. So explain what your reaction was to it, and then call a whole bunch of people out. And please use names, because I want to offend
Please
people
use names. I
and
have
drive
no
up my
problem.
numbers.
I have no problem. We can
Yes.
snatch edges all night, but
Yes,
I know we don't
please.
have much time.
It's fine.
But seriously though, like everyone says, call out. It's like, no, we need to call attention to bad narratives, and there's some bad fucking narratives going around. So
Right.
whether it's H.A. Goodman, Tim Black, Zach, the shirtless pundit, whatever. I mean, they get all hyped up, and the problem is they obfuscate the issues, right? They do the same thing to those of us normies amongst the progressives and left. That Hillary Clinton supporters did to us, right? So when you raise an issue, you raise counter position. There were some counterpoints in Counterpunch that were published and stuff, because she had a couple of pieces actually, and then finally she had a piece like, well, I never said that. It's like, dude, you literally did. This is such.
Hey, Anoa, just real quick, Can you back up off of your phone just a little bit? You sound great, but then you put your mouth a little too close to it. So just back off a little bit. It's perfect. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is what happens when you're an Android user. You suddenly get an iPhone. Big mistake. But anyway, but like several different people, try to Mike Cernovich is a good example. Like maybe your point would make sense to use a different example. Because then the second piece you wrote was, what I meant was, we need to come together to take down the corporate media establishment. It's like, why would we work with a propaganda machine to take down a propaganda machine if our issue is bad information and propaganda, which was my point and continues to be my point. And the problem is people go, oh my God, Caitlin is the truth. Oh my God, they're judging her, they're critiquing her, they're challenging her. It's like this woman. There's several of these people. Lauren Steiner and Elizabeth, they're so fragile. They're these very fragile little dumb people who exist in this space, who other folks, have come around like a cult, and they have to protect them. I get attacked all the time. People might come to my defense, but I'm not like falling apart, going on different people's shows crying about it. Like, quite honestly, my issue is bad narratives, because we're educating and influencing hundreds of thousands of people, especially these folks with these larger channels. Some people are like, well, you might be bitter because your channel's not that big. No, my channel's not that big because I literally work full time. I raise kids and I do a whole bunch of other stuff, so I'm not sitting around building a YouTube channel. There's nothing wrong with folks who do that, who have the time to do that. That's great. But me taking issue with a platform being leveraged in a particular manner is no different than those who are taking issue with CNN and MSNBC and Fox and the bullshit that they feed us. So this issue of and she said she used the term alt-right. And let's be clear, alt-right is something that Richard Spencer would use when he fell out with Mike Cernovich and Milo. Right, she used that to denigrate them because they're not as real as he is. Right, she uses their language and really to make it seem like he's a little bit better. But these guys they're all grifters. And like Mike is a grifter out of the Gamergate whole debacle era, men's rights activists, and this whole free speech, the free speech marches that were supposed to be happening, whatever. Zach, I can never pronounce his last name properly, but for Citizen Trump, both him and Mike Cernovich have White House press access. So I'm not really understanding how I'm supposed to be joining to take down the deep state or the establishment with people who work in the White House, like in our buddy channel on the president. Like, this literally makes no sense.
So,
and it's also very dangerous for me as a woman of color, for people to say, well, you just put us down on racial differences. With these people who really, like Mike Cernovich, whether he believes it or not, has professed language, including mocking the murder of Trayvon Martin, who at the time was a young black teenager, big for his age, just like my own son. So because of the life experience I live, I can't set aside certain things to follow these people down this really stupid path, because they're literally going to get me or my kids killed by their rhetoric and their nonsense, and that's a problem.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about this a lot more. The reception is really bad today, unfortunately, Anoa. But I know we only have a kind of a minute or two left anyway. But I want to have you on sooner than I had planned, because I want to really tease this out. But just as there's sort of just to kind of index a couple of takeaways. Number one is there is a culture that might have really good politics theoretically about things like inequality or anti-militarism, but these people are not grounded in historical, theoretical, or activist experience, and they're kind of building, media pathways, which no judgment, obviously, we all are. But if you're just kind of feeding garbage to an audience, whether it's like, HA writing columns every 2 minutes, back in the campaign. I mean, that's the reason I never bought that dude, because it was like, Bernie's going to win next week because the calendar is going to be pushed forward because Hillary's going to be arrested on Jeopardy, or, and people shared this nonsense because it filled an emotional desire in them, not because it was real, analysis. And then the final thought, and I just want to get your thought on it, like for 1 minute before we jump. And as I say, obviously we're going to be doing this regularly, and I want to have you on even sooner with a better connection. But it seems to me that there are some really interesting debates happening right now on the left, broadly speaking, between like a really kind of basically a Marxist kind of Adolf Reed perspective that really does center class in a functional way. And then there's this more kind of intersectional perspective. Right now, what you have, when you have people like H.A. Goodman or Tim Black, unfortunately, representing like the dumb version of the economic inequality argument, and then you have all of these Hillary retreads and morons on Twitter and Joy Reid and Joan Walsh and all of this doing the moronic version of intersectionality. So instead of having like a rigorous debate between two kind of valid ways of framing how we do what we do, we're having dumbed down versions of both that are making everybody dumber. I really like that word. What's your 1 minute thought on that
really
before we
is
jump?
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
I mean, we really are in a 90s comedy, unfortunately, right now. But I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we really do need to engage in greater, whether it's political or social, historical education to really help folks who were, purporting to inform, because we're not just entertainment. We're purporting to be an alternative to mainstream news and critique that is really, really, fixated on particular narratives and mindsets, right? And if we're truly going to provide people with informed alternatives, then we ourselves have to be informed. And part of the problem with those folks are, I mean, it's a bunch of bridges to nowhere. I mean, people are worried about keeping their patrons. And patrons are awesome. We love you. We can't do it. We do
Patrons
without you.
are the
But
best
at the same time,
people in the world. I love them. And frankly, look, if you're a patron and if you shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, I would still love you. It's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would. If you said something about Trump on the Facebook and really the comment, I definitely would love you. I'd fight for you even. But what I'm saying though is that we can't just be blowing in the wind just because we're getting money from people who lean towards a certain ideology.
And we
right?
can't just be fulfilling their
cultivate-
emotional needs. We actually need to be trying to do something valuable here, hopefully, whether we're right or wrong, but we're
When
actually
we claim to have a certain political meaning or a certain organizing ethic, we actually have a moral duty, I argue, to engage people, where they are. I will admit when there are things that I'm not well versed in. I'm not going to try and convince people or talk to people on topics that I don't know very much about. I'll engage people who know about these things to help, as you say, tease out the conversation so people can actually learn and be engaged versus increasing the dumbness
yes.
of our spaces.
Noah, will you tell people, everybody, real quick, all the ways they can find you and obviously your crew on the Michael Brooks Show? You'll be on again soon.
Jamal loves me, yay!
Yes, Jamal loves you. It's true.
You guys gotta ask Michael why I call him Jamal. I'm like, this is Jamal Francis Paul. Anyway,
The story of why my middle name is Jamal is only available for patrons. So just to be clear, yes.
Yes. Once I found out your middle name was Jamal, I was like, oh, I love it. I'm calling him Jamal. But you can hit me up on Twitter at the Layla for Noah. Same on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. I simulcast on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
The Way with Anoa, everybody needs to be following everything Anoa does. She is one of the most important voices out there. I appreciate your time so much, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
I'm just a troll. I don't know about that.
Well, trolls can be valuable.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. What we're going to do is we have gotten our hands on an ad that Right Wing Mandela did for Trump's Charlottesville winery. But first, Sam, can you get over there Sam Sachs, in studio with us, looking very serious during the show. He kind of had me like ill at ease, actually, because I was like cracking jokes, and Sam was looking at me like, there's serious things happening.
I didn't want to
People
laugh
are
too
being killed in Afghanistan, and you're doing childish humor. Is he on camera? Is he cool?
I have to set up.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to do that during the ad, or you can sit? No, I just wanted him to sit there, so it was easier for you. No, that's fine. He doesn't need to be on camera. I just wanted him to come over to make your life easier and not harder, but I did the exact opposite. Okay. Yeah, you'll set him up during the ad. This is an ad. If you recall, last week after Trump said that there were nice neo-Nazis, he then noted, and Luke, you might want to turn around so you could see the visual on this one. He also told everybody that he knows Charlottesville well because he has a winery out there. It actually turns out it's his son Eric's winery. Eric has a little bit of a Mike Cernovich thing going on himself. And Right-Wing Mandela and several celebrity endorsers have put together an ad for Trump's winery. And I present this now for everybody enjoying the Michael Brooks Show. After we watch this, we will be back with Sam Sachs of District Sentinel.
Hello, this is Right-Wing Mandela. You have come to rely on my voice of sanity and patriotism and political commentary on the Majority Report with Samantha Cedar. But now I want to talk to you about something that does not involve estrogen-filled men, and that is Trump Winery in Charlottesville, Virginia. Is a tremendous fucking winery for clean people with pristine taste. There aren't good people on both sides of this debate. Only losers who can't get in and winners who are drinking the best fucking wine imaginable. Hear from some satisfied customers.
Hi, this is Steve Minucci. I got so fucked up, okay? I was here negotiating the purchase of my latest wife. I got so fucked up on this wine, it makes you literally forget that anti-Semitism exists, okay?
Hi, this is Ben Carson. This wine has the highest micronutrient density of anything available outside of beetroot. Now, in the visual of this ad, you can see bottles, people placing bottles in different places. A warehouse, green bottles, which are very godlike.
This is Jeb Bush, and I've had my political differences with Donald Trump, but I don't endorse a lot, but I sure do endorse Trump wineries. Is that what you wanted me to say, guys?
Even Jeb fucking Bush gets it, and he is a total homo loser. But he can pay the admissions fee.
This is Bill Clinton. Yup, I did go to the Trump winery, and I still go when my fucking wife isn't in the house complaining about Russia hacking the election. God, I hate her. Things would have been much worse with her. Give Trump a chance. We need to align with him to defeat the deep state. Bernie would have won.
So come to Trump fucking wineries, hotel and events.
So there you have it. Sam.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. How close do I need to be to this thing? Should I talk right in it? Or?
And he's not on push. He's on not on push to mute, right?
A little bit closer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. Get settled in. So, talk about District Sentinel for a minute or so.
We started at the end of 2014. Trying to fill the hole of some watchdog reporting in D.C. from a unapologetic leftist perspective. Right. There weren't too many people doing that at the time. I don't know if The Intercept's leftist necessarily. They've come about since then, but mostly you had things like Slate and Salon and all these other places that weren't really doing much journalism, but were doing a lot of, Republicans were being hypocrites here.
Oh my
and,
gosh, yeah.
Hillary
Do you
Clinton's...
think that line is finally dying?
Which one?
Just this notion that identifying Republican hypocrisy, or really, any hypocrisy, like, we're probably a similar age. So I think if you're like in your late 20s, early 30s,
43.
Yeah, 43.
No,
Wow, good
just
for
kidding.
you. I totally don't believe you. But we came up with like basically Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart would build his segments on, this Republican said X, but let's go to the tape. And then it would go to a segment from 6 months ago, and the Republican would either say something, would either be, completely contradicting himself or, being hypocritical or lying. And then, Stewart would do the smirk and the audience would laugh. And maybe at that time, because media was so, even then it was really like Republican media. There was barely even sort of a Democratic option, I guess. Maybe there was some value to it, but it just, to me now it's like Trump okay.
Yeah.
Like what
he's almost going to kill that model.
Right. I think it was almost dead before. Do you think people or even watching like resistance types when they're just like, oh, well, he promised to take less vacations. Hope you're enjoying your
Isn't there something
vacation.
just today about Democrats are calling him out for not keeping his promise about building the wall?
I didn't see that, but that's exactly like how
he said he was going to build a wall and he didn't.
Right. Is that ever going to die?
Probably not, because it's extremely easy analysis. It's
Right.
very easy to pull off. It's
Right.
also, to people who agree with you and people who have the same mindset as you, it's appealing to them. It's kind of red meat to them. But I think just casual observers or people on the other side or people who don't agree with you, it's the least convincing sort of argument you can make against someone, especially a politician, where everybody just expects that politicians change their minds and go from one thing to other, and changes and circumstances change, and it's not the biggest deal. They just want to know what the person is doing, not what they've said.
And you're also playing on terrain that doesn't, favor, and I also think this whole sort of like Vox nerdism, and I actually do have some friends at Vox, but just the notion that there's that one model of like by your logic, right? And then there's the other model that you can kind of bludgeon people with factoids. And, first of all, you can't bludgeon people with factoids. And then secondly, if you're playing in that kind of hypocrisy and catching people in contradictions realms, it favors people like Trump, because I remember sometime somebody came up to me in the campaign and they said, obviously, they were somebody that actually liked Hillary Clinton. They were like a mainstream kind of Democrat. And I guess it shows how out of touch people are, because I was the stand-in for understanding a Trump voter, which is a pretty big stretch. But they were like,
You're on the left, right? So it's not that much of a
yeah,
stretch.
well, right. I guess they're right. It's exactly my like passionate commitment to everybody getting single payer and getting rid of like police violence would naturally lead me to support Donald Trump. But they were like, so why is it that when Hillary lies, they were objective enough to acknowledge that Hillary was not always truthful. But why is it that Hillary lies and then Trump just redefines truth? And why is it that she gets in trouble and he doesn't? And I said, and I gave all of this, I'm sure some of it's sexism, I'm sure some of it's double standard. But from a personality perspective, it's like when Trump is lying, he's being honest, because that's just like true to his essence.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just who he is as a guy. And if we're playing in that personality terrain and trying to catch people and call people out like that, fundamentally, we're just playing personality games. And personality games are always going to favor whoever has the most personality, even if it's really unappealing.
Yeah, I would say Trump also has a much lower bar than Hillary Clinton had and other politicians have in terms of what he can say and get away with and what people are shocked by, because he is a reality TV star. He's been a celebrity, for decades within the U.S., so he's been saying outlandish things for as long as we've known him. So when he says that in the capacity of a politician, people just carry over the reality TV star. So him lying or him changing his positions or anything like that, it doesn't quite carry the sort of weight that someone who is trying to at least carry the mantle of a respectable statesman, politician, or stateswoman, politician that has morals and respects women and people of color and all these things. I mean, and plus, the way the Democrats have responded to Donald Trump, and Republicans have responded too. The people have switched sides within 6 months on so many different issues. Like, what's it mean to be under investigation by the FBI? You know, when Hillary Clinton was under investigation by the FBI, it's nothing. It means, according to Democratic talking points, it's just a standard thing. She's innocent, but this is all going on.
Right.
If Trump and his associates are under investigation, well, that's an indictment. He should be impeached. You know, Hillary Clinton's email practices were condemned by Republicans, and then it comes out later. I don't know if it was Trump or one of his people. I guess it was maybe the energy secretary. Was it Rick Perry or
no? Not I think it was or
the EPA guy. It was the EPA guy, Pruitt.
Yeah.
You know, had all these email issues too. So, and then it's not a big deal.
It's not right.
So you see on both parties, especially when it comes to hypocrisy, it's always a short-term argument because you're going to find yourself on the opposite side in 6 months defending something you thought was awful.
Right.
And
do you have? I know you do. We'll get to some things shortly, but you also are you've done a lot of national security stuff, and we'll talk more about this. A recent piece that you actually wrote for District Sentinel. District Sentinel is not just a podcast, everybody. It's also it's a full service website. You guys do
we got
writing, reporting.
we put up some original reporting on a daily, weekly basis. I mean, we started off as a print news site, and the podcast has sort of been a more recent development.
But so that being said, I mean, do you have any kind of snapshot takeaways from the Afghanistan speech by Trump? Or any thoughts on it? Or did I pretty much just nail it in the open?
You nailed everything.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
no.
Enough,
I mean, I would just stress the point you made about Trump talking about how he's just giving more authority over to his generals. That's not something that makes anybody feel better. Sure, we don't want Trump's finger on the button. We don't want Trump doing anything because he's a man-baby lunatic.
Right.
But U.S. generals have historically been just as willing to commit atrocities on the battlefield as anybody else. And as you noted, we've seen a huge uptick in civilian deaths since Trump has given command to the generals, or as he calls it, cutting the red tape or whatever. That means getting approval from civilians about how many civilians might be killed in this attack before the military can just go ahead and carry it out. That doesn't exist anymore. They're just doing it. And the military will say there's been no official change of policy because there hasn't. They just have more control now than they had before, and those are the consequences.
They have more discretion to sort of choose the targets they want and go about things in the way they want, and which is different than I think that's important for people to understand. It's not like an official directive. It's just a sort of basic operating procedure or rules of the road that they essentially get to manage themselves.
Yeah, and you know, say what you want about President Obama and the amount of civilian casualties that took place under his watch.
We should probably say a lot. We should probably say a lot.
Exactly. And but Obama was someone who at least liked to keep his eye on the tiller, liked to at least be notified as to what's going on, put in place new regulations to cut down, and they clearly weren't robust enough. But even those minor reforms implemented on the chain of command over targeting decisions and things like that, as we're seeing now, translated to a significant reduction in civilian deaths, considering how many more civilian deaths we're seeing with Trump at the helm.
Absolutely. So, look, here, I don't know, do you have this in front of you? Did Matt hand you the... we have a series of tweets.
The Cernovich dossier?
The Cernovich dossier, which was put together by... co-super producer David Slavic. And basically, I don't know, basically, Sam, we're just going to go back and forth on Cernovich impressions.
I might be pretty well prepared. I spent...
now, did you meet your girlfriend through following the methods of his dating advice? Or?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they would have worked on her, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
I was actually, I was watching...
Yes, go ahead.
We did a show here in New York City last night, and I had to, for a segment, we had Mike Cernovich call into the show. So I had to listen to hours of Mike Cernovich in his Guerrilla Mindset seminar just to pull enough relevant things to create like a long...
Oh, so instead of an impression, you actually did
I
like a
actually
clip
just cut words out.
That's a lot of commitment to the craft. I would prefer to look at a couple of tweets and do a list.
As you'll see soon, I don't quite have the skills as you have on the Cernovich impressions.
I think your Cernovich is... Okay, this is another reason why everybody should also subscribe to District Sentinel. the guy, and also you co-hosted with Sam Knight, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but they did a story. I don't even remember. I think it was Mike Cernovich, who everybody should know. Again, let me do like one of these addendums for people who have had the fortune of not knowing who he is, and let me apologize for exposing him to you. Mike Cernovich is a guy who's sort of like equal parts Tony Robbins knockoff, alt-right racist, Alex Jones, and then actually hysterically, and the best part of his bio is that basically, I think, maybe at this, a settlement he got from his ex-wife, who is a successful lawyer, is a major reason he's able to operate the way he operates, which that is a factoid I fucking love.
It's delicious.
Right? It's just,
I did not know that, actually.
Could not be any better. Yeah, that is quite like the base of his seed funding for being a moron on Twitter. So basically, that's Mike Cernovich, and he is a supporter of the guerrilla mindset, and he is, was the guy who helped spread the Pizzagate conspiracy theory. And now in the Trump age, I mean, there's a lot of people that a couple years ago we might have said like, whatever, that guy's a fucking idiot, whatever. Now these people are like at the center of, at least media in the Trump age.
You've got Cernovich and Eli Lake fighting each other over who's got the scoops in the Trump administration right now.
Exactly. And Eli Lake's like, I did all the right things, and I supported Israel and melting Palestinians, and all of a sudden I have to compete with it. Actually, is that a good dating book? That's my Eli Lake
Just a point of
impression.
order. Cernovich swore off his dating advice when I was watching this seminar. He said that he's no longer in the pickup game because he doesn't like the sort of people it attracted to his brand.
Oh my God, you poor sons of bitches. That's like everybody to his brand.
Yeah, can you
He
imagine?
just insulted people who were watching him in real time.
Can you imagine being one of the hopeless, marginalized losers that follows pickup artist advices, and then the guy says, like,
and the guy's like, actually, I would prefer to not cater to you hopeless, marginalized losers.
Let me tell you about guerrilla mindset instead.
So there it is. So they did a story where they said that, and do we want to, just play a second of Mike Cernovich's actual voice, and we'll give us a metric here and how well we're doing this impression. But anyways, Sam and Sam both did amazing Cernovich impressions, and I was on a subway, I was in a subway hangover ride, which is very difficult, and I was sort of like drinking a bottle of water, and I was just like, ugh. And then I heard them, and they went, Cernovich, a bellwether. And I started laughing so hard, but I got pissed because my head was throbbing.
What was the Cernovich bellwether again?
That he was like,
right.
What was it
His
about?
books.
That he wasn't going to,
he wasn't
it was about
selling enough Trump books. He wasn't selling enough Trump books.
Right.
And so he's like, I need to pivot away from Trump so much.
So he's like, I'm going to be a journalist first and foremost, not a Trump supporter.
One of the clips I found last night was him calling into the Alex Jones show. And Alex Jones is like, oh, you're late calling in. And Cernovich is like, I'm sorry I'm late, but I have breaking news. The Trump administration is done. This was like just the other day. And he's talking about how all these employees in the administration are on these 140-day contracts that are now expiring. And the Republican establishment is purging them and taking over the Trump administration. And that we can just declare the whole thing dead.
Done. All right. So we're going to read a few of his tweets. But first, let's just get a taste of the actual Mikey C.
Yeah,
and see how we're doing here.
I saw this clip this morning.
Yes.
And I actually think that his point about the tiki torches is actually, I think, pretty well made here. But this is to get a sense of his voice.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear his point about tiki torches.
Young man and young men know everything. Nobody knows more than a young man. Man under 25, that guy knows it all. But I don't know anything, correct? So that was a honeypot. Those torches, why do they want you carrying torches?
Wait, I'm sorry. Pause it.
So they can.
I thought honey pot was always sex. What does a tiki torch have to do with the honey?
I mean, I think generally it's sex. But
I'm sorry to
concept,
quibble here. I apologize.
You're being a bit pedantic for Cernovich.
Pedantic. Pardon me. Sorry. Go right ahead.
See your face and take your picture. Camera, picture everywhere. So you're going to walk there at night in a march and illuminate your face at an event so that the feds can have a file on every one of you.
That's actually not the worst point he's ever made.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that, but
Yeah.
that's what those tiki torches function to do, is to light up their faces.
It's like anti-COINTEL training for like khakis racists. All right, Sam, start first, please.
Where are we starting?
I think we're on marriage. It's the first page.
Okay.
Do you have that?
Am I reading the first one?
Yeah,
here?
just read the first one. I'll read the second. We'll just trade off a few. All right, we're just having a little
All right.
Cernovich off.
I could sell more writing some boobies and bacon. Man show bullshit, but this ain't me. Others can have that niche. I don't even know what he's talking. This is out of context here. It seems.
That's fine. It doesn't need to be in context. Get into the gorilla mindset. Stop being pedantic.
I despise that man show shit. Always hated it. Watching sports, drinking beer, and boobs, not what it means to be a man.
You hear that, Luke?
That was the character of masculinity, which is why the media produced it safe. No mention of force or will, strength, honor. Show was a joke.
Oh, I get it now. He is talking about the man show with.
I would have thought he'd have
isn't
been
that a
into
gen-
the man show. I don't understand.
He's
that.
counter. Dude, he is on a rebrand.
Emotional control, self-possession, self-reliance, forces of will. Media would never air actual man show. Boobs and bacon shows only.
He's probably now into like not jerking off and like preserving your like male essence. All right, read the last one. Oh, he is? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, read the last one.
Society will let you do CrossFit, grow a beard, but that's it. Any other expression of masculinity will get you fired, of course.
All right, we got to do a few more of these.
You know what this reminds me of
Yes.
before we get to that?
Yes,
is,
please.
Like, you read about the sort of the turn of this last century in Teddy Roosevelt and like the sort of obsession with masculinity and like
yeah.
frontier stuff. This is
yeah.
a really weird iteration of that, where it's like internet based and
It's like Teddy Roosevelt masculinity for men that cannot walk a block. Sort of like, we need to get back to the time where we hiked mountains and killed bears. Where's my inhaler?
In D.C., there's a Roosevelt Island where he used to retreat to, and there's a statues on there of all these men, and Roosevelt quotes about manhood and what it means to be a man.
Oh, we should get those and read them in the Cernovich voice the next time we do a show together.
Marriage and monogamy are not natural. It's better for people to not realize it. Stay virgin. Marry first partner.
Oh, it's getting deep now.
This is Mike Cernovich responding to a Cassandra Fairbanks tweet here, apparently.
Oh, God. It's like the worst people on the planet.
Anthony Weiner is in a sexless marriage. Obvious sign of that. He'll be much better off now.
Tolerance from the left requires you to debase and defile yourself. Scat and pedophilia receive more tolerance than traditional marriage.
Which reminds me, there's a new segment on the Michael Brooks Show, which I'm debuting, called
Matt Scat,
where we say that whatever the fuck it was that Matt just said deserves more respect than traditional marriage. Disgusting. All right, let's do two more. I think you're going to need to do, this is getting back, because I think what David has done is he's designed a timeline here, because now Cernovich, in his own warped way, is clearly on a rebrand. And David is reminding us of how disgusting Cernovich is. Do you have the Trayvon Martin one in front of you?
I do. Why don't you read that one? This one is awful.
Oh.
Even in a Cernovich voice,
Way
it's
to have
awful.
solidarity, dude. All right. Wow. By the way, lesson in not manhood right there.
Today, we have a moment of silence for Trayvon Martin's rape victims. Kidding! He got to go before he was able to rape anyone.
This is, and by the way, this contextualizes Anoa. Those fucking morons that Anoa was talking about wanted to have an alliance with this guy.
But this was Cernovich when he was giving pickup
This is when-
advice,
yeah.
though. You know?
This is when I was giving pickup advice. Completely different.
during the
phase.
primary.
All right, and I'm just going to read on being alpha.
No one thinks alpha when they think of alt-right. They think of mass scary men. Antifa arouses strange unconscious desires.
That was a
Okay.
What is he
recent one.
saying?
Yeah.
What's his
That was a
argument
recent
there?
one. I don't know. I guess this is just that they should be in masks. I have no idea.
Is he saying Antifa is alpha?
He's saying that people think of it when they think of alpha because they're in masks.
Oh, well.
What desires is Antifa? I mean, strange desire, is it to punch a Nazi? Is that the desire
The
that...
strange, bizarre desire to punch a Nazi. Where could that come from? Not everyone's worldview was formed by having troubles with speaking and getting a settlement from their first wife. So it's hard for me to expand my moral horizon.
Look,
that's bleeding into the Peter Thiel impression.
After spending hours watching this guy yesterday, I will say he seems to have it figured out. He mentioned how when he gets angry or mad, he rubs his right leg and it goes away. And this is something he learned by using guerrilla mindset, not just in a defensive manner, but also offensively.
Mike, rub your right thigh while you watch this. And send this to Mike and tell him to rub his right thigh. Okay. In a few minutes, we're going to take a 5-minute break and we're going to go into the postgame. Sam is going to do me the honor of staying with me. We're going to talk more about Afghanistan. We're going to take your calls and IMs. But before we do that, and you know what you have to do in order to join us in the postgame, you have to become a Patreon. You have to, and that also gets you, you get a bonus interview with Steve Cook on the Emirates crisis.
Can we knock down the style guide? Sorry to interrupt, but
sorry.
Are we calling them Patreons or patrons?
Patrons?
Well, that's sort of what it was originally about. Like, you're a patron, right? Would you call them? They're our Patreons.
Well,
patrons.
Sorry,
patrons. Sorry. Okay, yeah, patrons.
We're definitely not calling them patrons.
Well, I was saying it from Patreon. Okay, yeah. But
okay.
Which way are we going? With the E?
I'm actually just confused at this point. Patrons. That was very pedantic, Matt.
I'm just trying to establish it when I write it in the notes and stuff like that.
Spelled the same way either way.
Beta cuck alert. No. Okay, patrons. How's that?
Sure.
Okay? Not patrons. Anyways.
Not Eon.
Yes,
not
No.
Patreons.
Okay. Sorry to derail the show.
I'm rubbing my right thigh. It works. It's amazing. That guy's a genius. The only way that you get and also, I do regular Q&As on the Discord. If you join at the $21 level, you get a monthly phone call with me. If you join at the $33 level, you get personally tailored impressions. There's a lot of stuff that you get. Go to TMBS Patreon/TMBS. Matt, actually, really quick, I'm sorry. Will you tell them what's going on with the video portion of the post game, just so they know? We're working on it.
So the ultimate goal is to have the good members only post game part online as video for Patreon members. I thought originally that you could just upload that to Patreon, but there's a size limit, so we're going to try a few things. You might just get the audio again tonight, or you might get a link to a YouTube video, but we're working on it.
We're working on it. There's also 86 reviews on iTunes. I really, really appreciate it. Keep feeding those reviews. That helps it because, that's you patrons are the vanguard. Thank you. And then we're expanding the whole scope. So, join us in the post game and also this weekend, Silicon Valley fascism with Corey Pine and I for the illicit history segment and a ton of other things, which I can't go over all right now. But first, of course, and this is a segment that people have accused me of ripping off from you guys because you guys throw people in the garbage can.
It's very essentially similar.
I think it's totally essentially similar. I think it's probably like 40% rip off, 60 because I've been locking people in a pyramid.
Is that a Game of Thrones ripoff too?
No.
Do you watch that? I don't know. Are you into that?
I watch it.
There's a dude who got locked into like a pyramid vault.
Oh, really?
Show. We might need to use that for.
I think we're going to need to use that for an element. But I'm not super into that show. I would happily have stolen from it if I watched it regularly. But basically, I said I don't remember what prompted it. Maybe
was it Ben Carson?
It was Ben Carson because we were doing
he
a lot of
told you not to watch it.
Yeah, don't watch Game of Thrones is very satanic. We were watching. What we were doing was we were doing a lot of Ben Carson material, and Ben Carson had like a grain pyramid theory.
Oh yeah.
And so I said one day, Robbie Mook needs to be locked in a pyramid, and people started tweeting at me of like who else needs to be locked in a pyramid. And then I was like, oh, well, they throw people in the garbage
can. It seems
can.
like a pretty organic origin there.
It was organic, but it was solidified through. I like the garbage can. It's great. That's another great feature of District Sentinel, which everybody should also subscribe to. So, anyways, Sam, I'm honored that you joined me. This is your first time joining us, of course, the music for the pyramid.
Honored to be here for this.
Yes, and you are joining Matt and I. Now, Steve Mnuchin, is an extraordinarily disgusting human being, And he got rich because his daddy was a Wall Street guy, And he also has almost certainly been involved in criminal conduct and evicting people from their homes, okay? But he was never prosecuted, okay? And he is a truly disgusting human being. It turns out he's actually married to a disgusting human being as well, okay? His wife's name is Louise Linton. And she, Matt, can you read some of this for us, if you have it in front of you? Louise Linton traveled recently with Steve Mnuchin to Kentucky, of all places. And I need the top where she basically...
Can I play Jen Miller, 29? 29. Who says, glad we could pay for your little getaway, #deplorable. So... member of the resistance.
That's a member of the resistance. And then where
doing their work here.
Yes, that's total resistance. But what did Liz Linton first say? I need to read that. So she's in this Instagram photo. She tagged herself. There's only 10 likes, and she's a former actress. Sad. Great #day trip to Kentucky. #nicest people. #beautiful. #countryside. Roland Murray. What is that? I don't know.
I think they're a type of pants.
Yeah, they're a type of pants. Tom Ford Sunnies, Hermes scarf, Valentino stud heels, Valentino USA. And then, and I will read this, and then Sam, you can begin castigating these people. And as I always say, every time I read about people like the Mnuchins, I also say, how could you ever judge the Cuban Revolution and what they did to people involved with Batista? This woman, Jen Miller, Emily A. Dickey, this is all she wrote. Please don't tag yourself in the Hermes scarf. Distasteful. That's it. That's the most mild social media criticism I've ever seen in my life. Not like, fuck you and your Hermes scarf, bitch, which is more like what you would normally see. And Louise Linton responded, at Jenny Miller 29, cute. Did you think this was a personal trip? Adorable. Did you think the U.S. government paid for our honeymoon or personal travel? LOLOL. Have you given more to the economy than me and my husband? Okay. Either as an individual earner in taxes or in self-sacrifice to your country? I'm pretty sure we paid more taxes towards our day, quote-unquote, trip than you did. Pretty sure the amount we sacrifice per year is a lot more than you'd be willing to sacrifice if the choice was yours. These are also like studded with emojis. You're adorably out of touch. Thanks for the passive-aggressive, nasty comment. Your kids look very cute. Your life looks cute. I know you're mad, but deep down you're really nice, and so am I. Sending me passive-aggressive Instagram comments isn't going to make you feel better. Maybe a nice message, one filled with wisdom and humanity, would get more traction. And I did mean to say unanity because that's what she said. Would get more traction. Have a pleasant evening. Go chill out and watch the new Game of Thrones, like Sam. It's fab. Sam.
I
lay into these people.
I like that Louise apparently went in to who is it? Jen's Instagram and looked through her photos of her kids and everything.
Very healthy.
And I think it's pretty clear that she definitely did not contribute. I mean, we have to look at this in percentages, right? Obviously, the rich don't pay near the percentage of their income as working people do. So I don't know what
also,
you're talking about there.
Paying taxes is not a sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's like I didn't. It's a bad example. But say that I bought this beer. That's not a sacrifice. I paid for it. It's not like a contribution to the economy. Like,
Plus,
I did something so noble not by shoplifting this. You paid your fucking taxes, you idiot.
And as far as contributions go, I have no clue what Steve Mnuchin, is like contributing to the economy, other than as you noted, committing vast crimes related to the foreclosure crisis. So.
My wife's a tough woman. She actually, it's so funny. Okay. When I bought this girl from Estonia, it was so much easier. When I bought Louise, it was so much more of a competitive process. And she actually likes to sign foreclosure forms herself. Anyways, this is why.
And she's walking out of a government plane.
She's walking out of a government plane.
You can see why the impression would have been left that the government's was footing the bill here.
And you could see why, that someone might think, wow. You're distasteful, not thank you for contributing to the economy. So the Mnuchins, you are locked in a pyramid permanently. Yeah, let that music play out. That's right.
To be fair, if she's not taking her Hermes scarf, why is a person like her having one and wearing it?
Well, I guess so.
Like, who's going to take a Hermes scarf besides Laura Linton?
That's true. Laura Linton also wrote a book called In the Shadow of the Congo, which really offended.
She wrote a book?
She literally wrote a book. It was like she did like a gap year, I think, in Zambia, which is like a very chill, like not on the radar country at all. But apparently she wrote it as if like she was in the middle of like a child soldier gang war. So she offended a lot of Africans as well. Yeah, in the Congo's shadow.
In Africa, they call her Sister Louise.
Yeah, exactly. And it has 2 stars on Amazon. So Louise Linton and Steve Mnuchin, okay, you both are locked in a pyramid. Become a patron. That is the style guide of the Michael Brooks Show today. Everybody, 646-257-3920. We're going to open up the phones and the IMs, and in about 5 minutes, we'll be on with Sam Sachs, super producer Matt Leck, and the whole crew on the post game. Leave us a review on iTunes. Watch us on YouTube. Let the people know. Thanks, everybody.